All right, let's start with the webinar. So welcome everybody to the GFLI webinar for reporting your environmental footprint, the standards by GFLI for feed data. My name is Claudia Milse and I've been working for over a year for GFLI now. And I mainly guide the companies through the branded data process. So I also have my colleague Laura Noble, and she's the manager at GFLI, and she will also be present to assist with the Q&A session. So why do we actually do this webinar? Over the years, tracking sustainability became increasingly important, and within the feed industry, we already made some great progress. We have the ISO standards, we have FAO LEAP guidelines, the PEFCR feed, and there's also a lot of secondary and statistical data already available for calculations of the environmental footprint. And with the increased interest for the calculations of product carbon footprints and for primary data, GFLI started branded data a couple of years ago as a pilot phase, and now since a year we actually opened for a submission. And during this webinar, we will give you more information about GFLI, about branded data, the requirements for data quality. And we also invited one of our members who will give us a bit more insight in how they experienced the collaboration with GFLI throughout the whole branded data process. So I'm glad to announce our three speakers of today. We have Muriel Hagenaars, Phillipe Becquet, and Kevin Perryman. So first of all, we'll start with Muriel Hagenaars, and she works as a sustainability manager at ADM, and she's part of the GFLI Technical Management Committee since 2022, and she also was chair of the Technical Management Committee for 2 years. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention that if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat, and we will either answer them during the webinar or we will get back to it during the Q&A session. So Muriel, I would like to give the floor to you.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. Thanks for the intro. So you can all still see the screen, I hope. What I'd like to do today is give you a brief introduction about what the GFLI is and also the branded data before we go more into the details of the methodology and the practical example that Claudia alluded to. So first of all, the Global Feed LCA Institute is a non-profit member-based organization that is founded by multiple associations within the feed industry. And it's currently comprising of over 40 members. So it has grown quite a lot in the last years. And this includes not only associations and non-for-profit organizations, but also smaller and larger companies. And I also see that many members have signed up for this webinar today, which is great. And the GFLI provides a comprehensive LCA database that contains cradle-to-gate environmental information of animal feed ingredients. And this database, which is commonly referred to as the GFLI database, contains sectoral data, industry average information based on primary data from industry, but also statistical information from where country averages are being calculated. And the aim here is that this LCA database can help the feed industry in meeting its sustainability goals. And here it's important to ensure that there is an option to have a harmonized and comparable approach. And to this end, the GFLI methodology is aligned with the FAO LEAP guidelines, which are globally applicable guidelines. And also the GFLI is accepted within the EU PEFCR feed for feed ingredients as a secondary database. The vision of GFLI is to become the independent global reference for feed ingredient LCA data to support the environmental goals of animal production. And that leads us to the three key purposes of GFLI. The first one is providing a globally accessible database, including animal feed ingredients life cycle assessment, supporting compliant, credible and transparent environmental assessment of animal feed ingredients, and fostering continuous improvement of the environmental performance of animal-derived products. And what you will see today is that the branded data developments fit in well within these purposes. Then looking more at GFLI as a whole, I've spoken a bit about the database, a bit about the methodology. As it is an institute, there's of course other aspects that go into the GFLI as an organization. And specifically what I'd like to call out here is that the GFLI is always open to partnerships with stakeholders in the food and feed sector. These can be either research institutes, universities, but also, whatever you think can be an interesting collaboration with GFLI, please reach out to the Secretariat. And when it comes to the database itself and the methodology, one of the key aims of GFLI is to manage the database and improve it. So making sure that there is a good representativeness of the different feed ingredients globally, and also making sure that the quality is robust. And when it comes to methodology, of course, it's important to stay up to date of major developments in the sector, but also outside of the sector, and staying flexible but very thorough in the methodological approaches to be able to cater to the different needs in the industry. So looking a bit more at the GFLI database itself, it currently consists of over 1,800 data sets. This comprises mostly country level or regional data sets that can be based on, as I said, literature or statistics information, but also can be sectoral averages. And you can see here in the graph that the majority of the origins covered, the production origins of the ingredients, is in Europe, but also we have as GFLI other regions covered, and GFLI is continuously working to ensure the quality of these data sets, increase the number of data sets and the global relevance of the data sets from the different origins. And there can be several data providers. So GFLI works there with research institutes, universities, associations, companies, and sometimes also consortiums of entities. So again, here there's a lot of sources that can come into the GFLI database, and it all comes down to having the consistent methodology to make sure that within the database results are comparable. So the use of the GFLI database, as you can imagine, there's many potential uses depending on what type of stakeholder you are. You could calculate the environmental footprint of compound feed or certain feed mixtures with the GFLI database environmental footprint data. It could also help in research projects or for companies targeting a calculation of all their feed ingredient sourcing or production. And due to the wide range of possibilities here, GFLI offers 3 different license types to cater to your specific use case. We won't go into too much of that detail here, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to the Secretariat to understand better what is the best case. But then, of course, as we are speaking mainly about the GFLI database as a way where you can see average data. Of course, what GFLI also saw is an increased importance to having more specific information, and a few years ago identified the need for companies to be able to calculate the environmental footprint of their feed ingredients, but then have it comparable with the GFLI guidelines. So this is when the GFLI developed the branded data concept. And branded data is environmental data for specific feed ingredients, which is marketed under a certain brand and owned by a company or other entity. So it was developed for interested companies who want to conduct an environmental assessment of their specific ingredients and be compliant with the guidelines of the GFLI. So the main difference, how branded data is different from the GFLI database today, is that it requires company-specific inventory data instead of regional or sectoral averages. And there's stricter requirements when it comes to data quality. And Phillipe will talk about that in a bit. But this means that there is, on the one hand, there's a very strong data quality requirement and a robust process when it comes to the review of the branded data. And on the other hand, it still allows for comparison with the GFLI database information that's in the database today, due to the alignment of the branded data methodology with the current GFLI database. So what Claudia already mentioned briefly is the pilot phase. This pilot phase was started in 2021. Well, actually, that's when the methodology was first drafted. It was largely based on the PFCR feed. And the aim of the pilot phase was to look at how this methodology can be implemented, how it works. Of course, whilst testing it, there may be certain challenges or things that are that need to be specified further. So in January 2022, the GFLI opened for submissions of the pilot phase, and there were 15 participating companies who were testing this methodology, aiming to comply with it, providing feedback. And 1 year later, the results, or let's say the outcome of that pilot phase, was reviewed to see how the methodology had to be improved to make it more robust and also workable. And the TMC also played a key role in this to make sure that the methodology was covering all the important elements. And this was finalized in October 2023. So the branded data methodology that is being used today was published at the time. And in July 2024, the pilot phase was officially closed, and GFLI opened for branded data submissions under the updated methodology. And I believe so far there's already been a lot of interest in branded data. To date, the Secretariat has mentioned to me that already 48 data sets have completed successfully the branded data process, which is a rigorous process with internal and external review. And the GFLI is also seeing a continuous interest moving forward. So I would like to close from my side with a last remark on the added value of branded data. So the added value of branded data specifically for producers of feed ingredients is to be transparent about the impacts of their specific products. And it also provides a credible and comparable metric to their customers, but also other stakeholders. And moreover, it can give insight into the hotspots of specific value chains for the company. It can also help assessing progress over time. And like I said, with the recognized and harmonized methodology, that really helps to provide a credible metric, and also allows, to whatever extent possible and reasonable for comparison with ingredients that are currently in the GFLI database as sectoral or regional averages. And of course, results and also the deliverables from the branded data process can be used for marketing and communication purposes. There's also a guideline available on the GFLI website that specifies the different uses. So with that, I will hand back over to Claudia. And so then we can talk a bit more about the data quality and other requirements of branded data.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel, for your presentation. So now we will get to the next part about the data quality, which will be presented by Phillipe. And Phillipe is an agronomist. He worked for the feed industry for over 40 years now. And he has in various aspects experience, and one of which sustainability. And Phillipe represents the IFIF within our GFLI Technical Management Committee. He's already part of the Technical Management Committee since the beginning, and he has a great additional value to the TMC. So Phillipe, I would like to give the floor to you.
Thank you, Claudia, for the nice introduction, and good day to everyone. So I should have access to the screen now, and so the idea of my presentation is more to look at the differences between branded data and secondary data. In particular, with regard to what we call the chain of custody, so all the supply chain and the understanding of the supply chain, and also the data quality requirements. As mentioned by Muriel, we have two types of data coexisting in the database, and therefore we need to differentiate them so that people know exactly what they are doing. So with regard to the difference, first of all, is that on the branded data, we speak about a specific manufacturing site. And based on this, we need to be very precise on what we do and on the particular site. While for secondary data, you may have a representation of an industry or a region, depending on the cases, even of a country. And this may be very different in terms of inputs data. The second thing is that the primary data would be then specific to the manufacturing site. We would accept potentially if two sites are located in the same region to have data from two sites at the same time in average, but in general we speak about a unique site. While again we speak about average industry data for the secondary data, and then of course the key element is sourcing. Of course, we will not ask people who are making branded data sets to get the sourcing of everything, but at least have a kind of knowledge about their sourcing, because as mentioned by Muriel before, these data set may also serve the industry of a specific company to improve their footprint with time, and therefore needing to understand the information for the sourcing and not only for what is going on the site. On the other end, the secondary data are using background data, so very generic data. And so the difference between the two things is one is more precise than the other. And that's what we are searching with the branded data. The other thing is, because we need more precision, we have this branded data should be properly defined in the data sets. And it should be linked also to the strategy of the company. So you don't put branded data in the GFLI dataset just to put a figure there, but it's part of a whole strategy and objectives of a company, of a provider of a data set. Because indeed, as you need to be more precise, then you know much more your hotspots, and you need much more what needs to be done to improve. On the other end of a screen, you have also the user of the data. Of course, the idea is not that anybody can use the branded data. There should be a link from the user of the data between what is really using and what is picking up. Because what you try to avoid is that the user of the data are piggybacking or sharing picking. On data that are the most interesting for them. But so when you use branded data more or less as a user, you will be linked in a way on the product you are purchasing as well. Now the chain of custody needs to be a bit clarified. This is part of the GFLI branded data methodology, but I would like to go more into detail here to explain how we see the difference between the two. So a first chain of custody, so which is all the development of a product from the starting point, which could be either an agricultural product or chemical synthesis or a fermentation product, whether it's a feed additive or a feed ingredient. The generic thing is that more or less we are using secondary data in the system of a chain of custody. So when you are producing a feed and you buy a starch from Europe, for example, the first thing you do is that you would use the market mix of a particular country. So the market mix is in fact the way the market is supplied by the external people, so including the internal production, but also any import, which is relevant statistically, mentioned before the statistics by my colleagues, statistically in the country where you are producing the starch. Regarding the extraction, you will have average process data. So you may take something from literature, or you may have different companies working together and finding an average process data involving the average energy consumption, the average yield, and things like that. So it's everything is really average. And then for the energy use, usually you are using background data, so energy mix. So if you are in a country where a lot of coal is used, then you have an increased energy impact. When you are more in a country using circular or renewable energy, then you will have a lower energy mix. But this is not linked to your choice, but it's linked to the place where you are placed. And then you look at all the LCA impact, and it gives you a data set. So here I took just the example of wheat bran. So you see then now we have a new names in GFLI where the names are clearly described. So we have made that for the next development. So then you provide all your LCA impact, and then when the product the feed miller is using this, the feed miller can use any product on the market using the average data set, because it's covering more or less all the kind of raw materials. However, when you go to the branded data, then you start to be much more precise, and so the data from the supplier are important here. So that's where I want to focus a little bit here. If you are using generic product from anywhere in the world, whether it's a chemical product or whether it's an agricultural product, then you have no real mean to change this. So what we are asking in the branded data methodology is that part of the supply chain is known, and the data from this supply chain is also available, so that you can really make progress and define whether you want to change suppliers or not. Or otherwise, it's very similar to a secondary data set. The second element, which is very important and specific, is the data from a process. Then in a branded data set, you will provide data that are relevant for your specific process, meaning yield, consumption of energy, consumption of materials, all these kind of things, losses and co-products if necessary. But this is really measured on your site and really in line with what you do every day and that you can change. Well, the third thing of importance is a specific energy source, if this is there. So meaning if you have a windmill on the site, or you have you are using a specific delivery system, then you would be able to integrate it into the data set, in order to again demonstrate that you made some progress on the sustainability of your product. And this is also helpful to exactly know how you can progress on this. The LCA impact are the same. The only thing that will change is that instead of being linked to a country or a state, when you speak about the United States, we are speaking about state, you will have here a specific name of a place, so the place of your manufacturing site. So you will see that in the last three last digit, where you have, for example, in this case here, we have France, FAR, FRA, and then you have the three letters that represent the location, specific location of the site. So that's a big difference, and that's also how the people can see that when they want to use this data set, they know where it comes from, and so they can make the relationship with what they are buying. And for the product use, the best is to have a supply contract with the supplier of branded data, but or to make sure that at least part of the product you are using is coming from the supplier. Otherwise, you would use data sets that are not relevant for your factory. So it's also very important that all this is covered. So as you can see, the big difference that is demonstrated in the GFLI branded data methodology is that you have to have a much more precise knowledge about your production, sourcing, production, and delivery than in the secondary data set, where you can buy a product from anywhere and you have average processes and things like that. So this is a key element that you should take into account when you are making your branded data. The second thing that you have to look at is data quality requirements. Of course, this goes hand in hand with what I said before, but there is also some level of importance that we need to take into account. So data quality requirements in GFLI methodology is covered by 5 different requirements. One is the precision. As I said before, as we are looking at more precise data and more specific data, this is improved normally for secondary data. It should be time representative. So that's also something where you would need to change the data because you make progress on your product, change the data relatively frequently. The technology representativeness, which is also linked to the fact that you describe your process and you describe the value of your process, so which is covered by this chain of custody as well. And the geographical representativeness is also covered by the chain of custody, which I mentioned before. For background data, you need also to look at what are the background data you can use, because of course, not everything can be specific, even in the branded data sets. So you may use the general energy in the system, so then you would have a secondary data and background data. So this is also related to the time representativeness and technology representativeness. So all this is important to take into account when you make your DQR. And we have an additional level of requirement, which is the data quality requirement level. So for secondary data sets, we agreed to have 5 levels of DQR, while for branded data, we ask for a 3-level DQR. So more precise data based on mainly measurements or calculation which are verified. Recent data are important if you want to keep the high level of quality. The technology, of course, is the same as the one you are using, and the representativeness as close as possible of what you are doing. So these are the big differences, I believe, from the secondary data and the branded data. Of course, it gives an advantage to the people making branded data because it shows the value of it, but it comes with some additional requirements. So I hope with this it has been helpful, and I leave experience from a colleague, Kevin, next. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Phillipe, for your presentation. So last but not least, we have Kevin Perryman, and Kevin has spent over 40 years focusing on the development of proprietary feed additives for the global livestock industry. And for the past 30 years, that focus has been directed at defining the application and value of various trace minerals used in specific livestock species. And that was for the purpose of improving the animal well-being and productivity. And in recent activities, their focus has been on determining how the use of various trace mineral sources can assist with the need to reduce total carbon emissions of livestock. So Kevin was involved in the branded data process of Nutreco. And he will tell us a bit more about the experience going through the whole branded data process and the collaboration between Nutreco and GFLI. So Kevin, please go for it.
Thank you, Claudia, and welcome to everybody that's taken a little time from your schedule to join us today. My assignment within this program is simple. We were fortunate. I say fortunate because we learned a lot in the process, but we were fortunate to be, if not the first, then one of the very first people to work with GFLI to evaluate our product IntelliBond, which is an improved source of trace mineral nutrition via the new branded ingredients protocol. So we worked hard on that project. It took us about 1.5 years because it was a pilot type of program that we were involved in to get through the process, but we did, and as you'll see, I have nothing but good things to report as a result of that collaboration. So, but first, before we get into that, let's talk just a little about who we are. I am a part of the Trial Nutreco organization that's many of you will know is based in the Netherlands, but has operations all around the world. And what is unique to our operation is our culture, if you will, is we have a very rich history of being pioneers. We recognize that while we have excellent products today, programs, etc., we've got to always be looking for what is in the best interest of our customer moving forward. As a result of that, back around the year 2000, we were the inventors, the original inventors of the hydroxy trace mineral product forms for animal nutrition. So that was a complete departure from the sources that existed at that time. And today we're proud to say that we are the leading source of trace mineral nutrition in the world today on a metal basis. So we are committed to science. Everything that we develop is backed by independent science. We've got 250 plus animal studies completed to date with just the Selko IntelliBond product range. Of those 250 studies, over 150 of those studies are referenced in peer-reviewed publications that exist in a number of different forms out there. So it's important that we produce the information, but then validate our promises via independent sources. And most importantly, as all of us in this call can say, is we care about the planet. And as a result of that, we've embarked upon a campaign, as I'd mentioned, starting a few years ago, where we're working hard to evaluate our products via independent LCAs completed. And one of those certainly is the IntelliBond product range that we will talk about. And as a result of that, we are the preferred partner of choice for improved trace mineral nutrition around the world, as I've mentioned. But recognize that while that may be the case, we still need to continue to work with organizations like GFLI, etc., in order to build on that program going forward. If we talk about sustainability, there's a lot of talk. What I'd like to say is our organization walks the talk. You've probably heard that saying before. But what we're really trying to say is sustainability is becoming increasingly important to the planet at large. Proven sustainability is quickly becoming, in our opinion, a license to operate in this industry. Our customers more and more are asking for the information on the sustainability of our products, and more importantly, they're asking for that product to be validated by organizations like the GFLI group. There is increasing customer demand for improved sustainability, which is leading to greenwashing. If you're not familiar with that term, it's simply where companies may tend to represent their products to comply with, let's say, the trend of sustainability, positioning their products as being effective when in fact there's no data to support that. So that's something that we as an organization and an industry need to be aware of. As a result of that, we've made a decision that that is not the direction that we're going to go. So as a result, we've indicated or initiated multiple projects to secure independently verified LCAs for our product. If we're going to make a claim to the industry regarding the sustainability of our products, we're going to back that up with an LCA or the necessary data. GFLI listing of IntelliBond was identified as a necessity. When we looked at the LCA process, we considered that to be a good, strong first step. Partnering with the GFLI organization to take that LCA and go through one further level of verification, as my colleagues have shared with you, was important to us. It was important that we go through that process, important that we have that information in order to represent to our customers that in fact we're capable of doing what we say. This results in the world, or has resulted in the world's first GFLI branded trace mineral source as we move forward. So talk about the decision to partner with GFLI. When we were going through the process, looking at how we could add to our sustainability claims, GFLI was identified as a globally recognized and respected independent database of verified feed ingredients, additives that provides its members with convenient access to independently verified total carbon dioxide equivalent values. So the question to our organization was, knowing that, was there an opportunity to include Selko IntelliBond, our zinc, copper, manganese product within GFLI's new branded listing, supported by IntelliBond's recent LCA verification and the extensive research database that we brought? If so, would this inclusion of the IntelliBond products within the GFLI branded database add further value to the feed industry, thereby supporting obviously greater use of our product? Certainly an important question for anybody in the feed additive industry today is, if we invest the time and resources to work with GFLI to go after the certification, is there in fact a return to that that's of value to our company and the industry that we serve? In our case, the answer was easy. It was yes for GFLI, which started our project working together with that team to assess. Speaking of teams, we all know that it's all about people. We had a team within our organization that worked closely on this project, but I would give great thanks to Claudia and to Laura for their collaboration on the GFLI side. They took what was viewed to be somewhat of a complicated process, especially in the pilot phase, and they made it work. And I'm confident that if you were going to work with this organization today, they would offer you that same level of support. It's important that we had everybody working together on the same page, and the communications that existed between this group allowed us to maintain that. Something that didn't work. How do I get back to my...
Sorry, Kevin.
Let me just start over again here. All right. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the actual journey working together from the LCA to the branded ingredient protocol. And that is that the GFLI team did work closely with our group to guide us through this process. The project involved a comprehensive audit of our unique manufacturing products and procedures and required all inputs required to produce 1 metric ton of each individual product. So we had to do a deep dive into all raw ingredient inputs. What are the raw ingredients? Where did they come from? How did they travel from their source to our point where they were manufactured, etc. All energy inputs, whether electric, natural gas, water, etc., had to be defined. And again, where did that electric come from, etc. All packaging materials, logistics to move products to the storage locations, and a number of other smaller details. I apologize that I have this thing in the way here. But this graphic kind of gives an idea, the different inputs listed over on the right-hand side. And then as you look at the independent products, just what the contribution from each of those points were to the total carbon dioxide emissions associated with that product. So again, a learning experience for us. This established a very strong benchmark within our organization that we could use then to compare as we continue to make improvements to our manufacturing process going forward. So with all the inputs collected, we work closely with the GFLI in-house technical team to validate the input data supporting final total carbon dioxide equivalent values. So we put everything together in a protocol and then submitted the protocol to the GFLI technical team. They evaluated and came back with a yes or no as to whether or not we were compliant with that. So what was the result? The result of the GFLI review indicated the 3 products. We had total carbon equivalent values as indicated in this first column. This is product as is, so 2.37 kilos of carbon per kilogram of product produced, in this case in Telebon C. The rest of this is just on a pure metal basis in order to compare with other sources. And then what is the metal content of these various products. So very good information to have when you're formulating with the objective of trying to achieve the lowest total carbon footprint in your feed. So with this data in hand, as Phillipe mentioned in his review, the data was then submitted to an outside independent reviewer. In our case, it was Professor Dr. Karab from UC Davis in California, who took all the data from our protocol and from GFLI and did an external review to review and ensure that all procedures conducted in the review were in fact consistent with statutes associated with the review. So having gone through that review, again, we're proud to say that the result was the first improved source of Trishman and nutrition to successfully complete not only an LCA, but achieve GFLI's verification using the branded evaluation protocol. And obviously our certificate off here to the right. So what is the value proposition? As I'd mentioned, anytime we make a decision, we always have to look at the bottom line to try to understand what the value is, not only for our company, but for our customers for sure, and the industry as a whole. And the listing of Intellibon with the branded GFLI database now provides the industry with the industry with convenient access to the industry's first improved source of trace mineral nutrition. So what that says is formulators can go to the GFLI branded database, and all of the carbon data is sitting there for their use in the formulation. They no longer have to guess or work with outdated regional sources or whatever. They have an accurate, convenient to access source in order to pull from that allows them to compare various trace mineral sources in order to achieve low trace mineral footprint. So it provides feed compounders with the opportunity to formulate for and promote the carbon footprint of their feeds. This was mentioned previously, that when a company does go to GFLI and pull those numbers, they can take the fact that they are working with the GFLI in order to verify or further verify their feeds in the marketplace. This eliminates greenwashing because they're using the faith and trust of the GFLI organization to verify the fact that their products are being manufactured correctly. The other point that I want to bring up is that by working with GFLI, you're aligning feed compounders with their customers' growing needs to improve herd sustainability. We all know, customers are becoming more and more aware of their need to work in this area. And also, I wanted to put this up just because we're surrounded by it these days. But here's just one of many different articles that are appearing in the popular press. I brought this one up because I think it applies directly to GFLI, but accurate feed data unlocks carbon savings, in this case for UK dairy farms. But if you read down through this article, it talks about more accurate feed data needed. What these producers are trying to do is reduce the carbon footprint of their feeds. But where do they get the data on the individual ingredients in order to formulate to meet that objective? That specifically is what GFLI can provide to those companies to take advantage of this growing awareness that we're seeing out in the industry today. In the case of IntelliBond's inclusion within GFLI, it further extends the total value proposition as it relates to its use in all animal species. That GFLI listing that we have can be picked up by a formulator formulating for swine, can be picked up by a formulator formulating for poultry, as they look to put their formulations together on a minimal carbon basis. A comprehensive evaluation of IntelliBond within GFLI approval process further solidifies IntelliBond's quality and efficacy standing, providing customers with a higher level of trust. This is important. If you're a feed additive company and you're considering this, the audit, the evaluation that you'll go through with GFLI is an excellent experience. And it's not only going to help you to improve your process, et cetera, as you go through from a carbon emission standpoint, but just if in fact you're admitted to the listing, it's an additional verification to your customers that you've gone through that, you've passed the test, as they would say, and that your product is in fact available to help them achieve their objectives. So there is value to that needs to be recognized within the operation. The verification of IntelliBond within GFLI database is unique, in this case, to only Selko and IntelliBond. What we work together with GFLI to do for our branded product IntelliBond is unique to our product. If you're a feed ingredient manufacturer, rest assured that your product will be specific to your listing. A company down the street cannot say, well, we're the same thing. It doesn't work that way. As Phillipe pointed out, the chain of custody goes back to the individual location, where these products are produced and all the inputs that are associated with that operation. That doesn't apply to somebody that's trying to copy your, what you've been able to achieve. So it's an important way to differentiate your products within the market with the customers that you serve. And then aligning your proprietary products with GFLI is a decision that's good for you and the customers you serve. So to finish up the plan, the plan is simply, starting with the observation that achieving improved sustainability is a journey that we as an industry must take together. I don't think there's anybody on this call that would disagree with that. No single company by themselves is going to be successful. We're going to need to work together. However, an old saying that I remember is you cannot see what you're not looking for. And unfortunately, most of the livestock industry is still working to identify what GFLI is and how it can be of value to them as they continue with their objectives to reduce the carbon footprint of their feeds that they produce and consume. So it's our job, whether you have a product that's registered within or listed within the GFI database, etc. It's our job to basically educate the industry on what the value of that validation is and how they can be using it effectively within their operation. By increasing the awareness of the industry, we improve the effectiveness of the GFLI organization, and we bring more value to the customers that we serve. To offset this situation will require aggressive effort by all industry partners to educate the industry on the tools and services such as GFLI and practices that have been independently verified to assist with the reduction of the animal's carbon footprint. So in conclusion, we within the Child Nutrition Organization are proud of our relationship with GFLI and believe it to be a partnership that will be of value to all as we work to reduce total carbon emissions in the world around us. So with that, I thank you for your time and the opportunity to share these thoughts with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. So we will continue with the last part of today for the webinar. I will share the right slide. Yes, here we are. So we will continue with the Q&A in a minute. But first of all, I'd like to thank all the three of our speakers for their efforts and participation during this webinar. I hope everybody has some more insight in GFLI and branded data. And I also hope that Kevin's presentation gives a bit more insight in the experience of a company when applying for branded data. So this webinar mainly functions as an introduction to branded data. And GFLI is still developing, making some major developments and improvements. And these developments are also discussed during our annual membership meeting day, which will be in January. And we will also provide some more information about the coming developments in the members-only newsletter. So if you're not a member yet of GFLI and you're considering to become one, please do so because you get a lot of extra benefits from becoming a member. So let's continue with the Q&A session. We already have some questions in the chat received. So the first one is, could you specify how to account upstream emission when it comes from co-products or byproducts with a low economic value with a lower percentage of 1? So this discussion about zero allocation is a very hot discussion from our understanding. And maybe, Phillipe, do you have any insights on this topic as well? Could you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, in fact, for branded data, it's the same as for secondary data. So when we have product with a low environmental impact on the total feed, ingredient data set, then it's not counted, it can be discarded. For branded data, the difference we have is that we are asking for primary data for 70% of the data provided, and 30% may be secondary data. Now, regarding allocation, so far we have the allocation, economic allocation. So it would be linked to the economical value of a co-product and byproduct. That's my understanding, at least.
All right, thank you. So there's the next question: how can LCA based on GFLI methodology be certified? So when applying for particular branded data products, you go through a GFLI review. So we have an internal review, which is performed by our own LCA consultant who works for GFLI. And after the internal review, there's also an external review, which is a third party, which is verified by GFLI. And this external reviewer, he follows the GFLI methodology external review guidance document. So we have multiple reviews ensuring that the data is actually compliant to GFLI, and we also have the external review for that. So next question is, maybe this one is for Kevin. So during your presentation, there were a huge number of study trials. And do you maybe know where this study is distributed? Is Africa also included in the study or not?
There were, in that database that we used, there were studies.
Sorry, Kevin, I think your internet connection isn't working proper. All right, hopefully Kevin will come back and we can continue with this question. In the meantime, we will go through another question. So how are users of the GFLI database informed when new branded data is added? Is there a mailing list, or do you have a newsletter or another form of notification? So we're really working on this, and it's a main goal of us in 2026 to have a better IT framework. And maybe Laura, maybe you can add a bit on the IT framework and the mailing list and newsletters.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So one of the major topics that we've been working on with GFLI, because we also understand the value of branded data, is to, well, firstly, to publish our database on our own IT framework, which would allow us to have more oversight of data sets and also include them more often. I know one of the topics within the pilot of branded data was also the inclusion of branded data into the full database. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And with the IT framework, we'll also be able to provide that more smoothly. And that would also mean that if we have a running IT framework, we would also be able to include branded data right away and also remove it probably a lot more easily. So it's more easy for data providers to share where their data is coming from and or whether they want to have the data published, or they might change their minds so we can still remove it from the full database at a more easy pace than doing it manually through Excel and such. And alongside with that as well, in the end, with the IT framework, we also hope we can provide user rights where the data provider or the brand data participant can work on their own data through the IT framework, as well as the data in generator tool that's being developed currently only for marine, but we're working on an expansion of it as well, which is pretty much a tool that automatizes part of the data modeling within LCA. So hopefully that would also make it cheaper and easier to do branded data, as well as having a full LCA of your processes, and also taking into account chain of custody and who is responsible for which point of the data when you look towards different suppliers and different tiers of suppliers and ingredients sellers. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Laura. So I see Kevin has his internet connection back, so maybe you could answer the question again about the study that you have. I will repeat the question one more time. So a huge number of study trials are included in the study. So where is the study distributed? And is Africa also included in the study?
If I understood right, Claudia, you're asking if any studies were done in Africa?
Yeah, whether one of the studies included whether the data is derived from Africa. That's how I interpret the question.
Because we do have within the data set studies that were conducted in South Africa only. Not in the rest, but in South Africa. So that would be how we've represented it at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a more practical question about the total cost of bringing a product into the database. So there are costs for including branded data into the GFLI database. Those costs depend on the number of ingredients and whether you're a member or a non-member, because as a member, you will receive a discount for integrating branded data. So the costs include the GFLI internal review and publication in the database. But beside those two, there are more processes a company has to go through. So Kevin, could you maybe explain a bit more about the cost for example, modeling or the external review? How did you experience that?
Sure, be happy to. We, as Claudia indicated, there are several different costs that are involved. I would tell you just to start at the top, we can work backwards, but the total cost, out-of-pocket cost to receive our listing was probably in the range of $25,000 to $30,000 US, or excuse me, 25 to 30,000 euros going through the program. Now, what did that include? We employ an outside sustainability consultant that works closely with us when we're putting together products like an LCA or working together with GFLI and the development of protocols, etc. There was also the cost of an outside reviewer when the data was complete, as I'd mentioned. Following its review by the internal technical board of GFLI, we had to submit that data to an independent reviewer. He went through that data, but obviously as a consultant, he has had a cost too. That was around $4,000 or $5,000. So when you add it all up, I'm going to say, depending on whether you've got outside consulting costs, whatever, you're probably in that $25,000 range to put an individual listing together for a product.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So one question, if a product is produced in different factories, should we create branded data for each factory, for example, one branded data for Europe and another one for North America or Asia? Or should we create an average? What consequences on prices and reviews? Laura, could you give a bit more information about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's quite open actually. So far, we're not trying to, because from my understanding, branded data is also dependent on what your suppliers need. And what I've heard, if it's from different factories, then you might also get a competitive edge towards the factories that's all under the same brand. So you don't want to cause any internal struggles. I would say if one factory is more bound towards coal instead of renewable energy, for example, that might be difficult depending on also the strategies and the turnover of certain factories. So you're actually quite open to see what's relevant for your product. So if you know that what you mentioned, like, if there's one branded data figure for Europe, that's possible if that is necessary. If you see that within your selling strategies, you see that most people are looking for more granular figures, like they want to purchase only from the Netherlands compared to Germany, for example, then you could separate it further if this is also what is within your own strategy on how you want to deal with this. And I also saw this ties into about branded data for soya from different regions in Argentina. I think this is the same way that you could go for a national average of your branded data. Of course, it has to be representative for your product. So if your representative product is Argentina, then it makes sense that it's representative for the full, for at least a certain percentage of the purchases or the production that you have within that country. If it's more relevant to also specify it towards a region, that's also possible. I don't think so far we don't have any farmer included ways, because then you would have like a one farm emission or brand data. I don't think that's necessarily the approach that is relevant within GFLI brand data, because that's might also be dependent on, in that sense, you could say like, oh, it's a premium product, so you want to offer it in that sense. But maybe that might currently not be the way to go in that sense. But it's, yeah, as I try to share here, is that it's quite open towards what your product and your downstream partners actually need of data in that sense, and also what doesn't cause any troubles internally. And I see Phillipe raise a hand, so you might have something to add in this sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, potentially on Argentina, because in fact, I see two ways of answering the question in a way. If we want to use land use change specific information from a different region, you can go for a tier 2 approach within GFLI secondary data sets. So when you create regional data sets, but using data on land use change specific to the different regions. And the other option, if you want to have branded data, then you need to have a representative number of farms that are supplying the data. So that's the difference between branded data and secondary data. In the case of branded data, in the case of agricultural product, you need to have data from a representative amount of farms in the region. So that's the addition I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you, Phillipe. So then we have one last question. Can you please explain how can a feed company doing a GHG, the greenhouse gas inventory and reporting using GFLI's branded database to achieve their emission targets? Phillipe or maybe Muriel, does one of you have an answer to this question?
I think, Claudia, I could start by sharing that the GFLI methodology, as I mentioned, it's based on the FAO LEAP guidelines and also aligned with the EU PFCR for feed ingredients. And so this is taking really a product LCA approach. So of course, inherently, there's always the question how to merge the framework of product-specific LCAs with corporate inventory reporting. So one thing, for example, the GFLI is working on is looking also at SBTI aligned reporting metrics for the feed ingredients in the database. So it is something that is that the GFLI is aware of and is trying to see how to best approach this. Of course, there's also different frameworks that exist, although the GHG protocol is a very widely used one. But yeah, this is I would say a common issue that we see and the GFLI is looking at.
All right, thank you. So I think we answered most of the questions. Some of the questions are also answered in the chat. So I would like to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. We're really sorry that there were some technical issues. There were some people running late in the meeting and some couldn't attend the meeting. So we will make a recording available for everybody, and we will send out an email because maybe we will do another webinar about branded data for those who missed part of the whole webinar. So I would like to thank everybody for participating. I would like to thank our speakers for their insight in GFLI and branded data. And if you would like to know more about branded data or want to get in touch with us, please send us an email. It can be using the info mailbox, that is info@globalfeedlca.org, or you can send me a personal email, which you can find here on the slide. So thank you everybody for joining this webinar, and maybe we will speak to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.